We will make an effort to answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. If we can't get to your question or it requires a more in-depth answer, we will circle back around to you after the webinar. We do have your contact information from your registration. And this webinar does assume that you have already installed the latest version of ConnectSMART on your ConnectSMART server. If you need additional installation assistance, please see the docs website at docs.connectsmart.com for our install guidance. And we will be able to, okay, so that is actually right here on our home page, so you can actually go ahead and follow those instructions. Or if you'd like a hands-off implementation where we take care of the heavy lifting for you, just reach out to us and we will get you on the schedule. So this refresher is going to start kind of at the basics. So if you have used ConnectSMART previously, you might find a little of the beginning stuff, something that you've already heard, but it has changed a lot in recent months. So our latest generation has incorporated data warehousing and our report designers with our dashboards. So you probably know us best from our dashboards, but now with your ConnectSMART subscription, you are getting a whole lot more. So today's focus is actually on dashboard creation, but in the future, please do stay in touch and join us on our other webinars about data warehousing and reporting. So in a nutshell, your ConnectSMART subscription, the full suite, consists of our data warehouse, the dashboarding tool, and the report designer. The data warehouse is fully hosted and allows you to consolidate and report on your data from a variety of sources like your PSA, RMM, accounting software, phone system. And the reporting solution includes 2 report designers that will report off our data warehouse and any other direct connections you'd like to set up to other data sources. And the focus for today's webinar are dashboards. They are fully customizable, they are centrally managed, and they allow you to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. So these are real-time metrics coming straight out of your data. So as your engineers and your staff are working tickets and updating records in your databases, you will see those changes reflected on your dashboard. So we've natively integrated our product with the most popular MSP tools, and you can connect to a wide variety of custom data sources. If you need any assistance there, just let us know, and we'll be happy to walk you through what you'd need to do that. So out of the box, we do include a number of standard gadgets already configured to report on industry best practices and some of the most commonly requested metrics. And during today's webinar, we'll be covering the basics of creating and configuring a dashboard connected to a live instance of ConnectWise. And after this webinar, you should be pretty comfortable going out and deploying a dashboard for your own team. So when you are on your ConnectSMART server, you can access the ConnectSMART menu by visiting localhost/ConnectSMART. If you're not on that machine, you will need to access it by IP address or a fully qualified domain. And that is, you would just need to get that set up through your administrator. If you need assistance there, it is to get remote access. That is covered by our professional services team, but we can definitely give you a hand. But once you get into the main screen, this is our home page, and it gives you access to the Gadget Creator, the dashboard viewer for the web, which is where you can view and create dashboards, the desktop client install, which allows you to view gadgets and dashboards outside of a browser and on a natively installed client. And the diagnose section here will be visible to you if you're a ConnectSMART administrator. Allows you to get access to your licensing info and some other troubleshooting stuff that we might need if you ran into an issue with your ConnectSMART installation. So we are actually going to start in the dashboard viewer today instead of the Gadget Creator. And the reason for this is because a lot of the options in the Gadget Creator don't make a lot of sense if you're not sure what that really means on the dashboard side of things. So we're going to take a look at a functioning dashboard, see how you can sort of manipulate it, lay it out, look at the alerts, the colors, and then we'll go ahead and bounce back over to the Gadget Creator to create and publish a gadget or two, and it should all come full circle for you. So here we go. All right, so off we go to the dashboards. And this is just a simple dashboard I put together earlier today so that we would have something to look at. And Connections for Business is our parent, our sister MSP company, so that's why you'll see their logo on some of our stuff. But this dashboard is just popped up because it's the last one I was looking at. If I wanted to find another dashboard, I've got my menu options over here. I could actually go and navigate to other dashboards, like this different version of the same dashboard. Now, if you had saved something under your own username, it would be under Personal. For today's demonstration, we just have the stuff under Organization that we'll be looking at. Now, if I wanted to start a new dashboard, I would just click this icon. I would go ahead and give it a name. I'd pick a category, and I'm not limited to existing categories. I can name a new category, like Webinar Gen, since I already have one called Webinar. And you'll see that category appear over here instantly. So you can name it anything you want, and you'll get new categories for that. And if I wanted to edit the existing dashboard or that dashboard that I just put here, I would click the edit, and that would give me the option to go ahead and add gadgets to it. I could delete my gadget or my dashboard. I could rename it, recategorize it, move it to my personal folder. I can also copy my dashboard. So if I've done most of the work and I just want a slight change, I can just copy an existing one and go from there. And last but not least from these buttons, I will go ahead and show you, this is our full screen. So it'll launch your dashboard in full screen. You do have the option of doing a slideshow where you'd grab a couple different dashboards and you'd add them to a slideshow. I'm just going to start with our normal one that's here right now. And so that'll just stay there until we exit full screen. And that's just always going to depend on the display that you're running it on. So some of these will look a little better in a wider resolution, some won't. But you get the gist. So, all right. So inside the dashboard viewer, we can change the size of these gadgets. We can add additional gadgets. We can rearrange the gadgets that are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a copy of this dashboard using that feature that I showed you before. And we will go ahead and do that. So if I wanted to make this gadget just a little bit bigger, basically everything in here is going to fit to these grids that will resize themselves automatically. So I will go ahead and just drag the edge of my gadget to resize it. And then I'm going to take this one, I'm going to make this one bigger. And if I wanted to move this gadget up to my next row, it'll actually go ahead and resize. Now you'll see these are still taking up the 2 grids that they originally were. So if I wanted this to take up an additional grid so that it matches the same, or matches, the 2 wide and 1 down, I would actually have to add another one and then pop it out. But it works the same both vertically and horizontally, so I'll just go ahead and say I want to make this one larger. Now we're not making any beautiful masterpieces here today. This is really more to cover the functionality. You'll want to play with things to see what looks best for you. For example, if we wanted to make this chart a little bigger, a little taller, we would rearrange some of the nearby gadgets and go ahead and drag this guy up. And so let's say this just does not work for us and we need something totally custom. I can actually take this guy and wiggle it around to make it any size I'd like. Within reason, there are the other grids around. And if I've messed that up and I don't like it, I want to revert back to how it was, I can just double click right on that edge and it'll take everything right back to auto for me. So if you've made a big mess of things, it's not that big of a deal. Just go ahead and let it go back to auto and move everybody back around. All right, so if you wanted to add a new one to this dashboard, actually let me switch to one that I have not already made ugly. And let's say that I wanted to add another gadget to this dashboard. So I would come over here. This is my auto updating fundamental, which just displays our company fundamentals each week. I just double clicked it and you see it added a new row, popped it in. Of course, it's very small and difficult to see, so I'd have to go ahead and arrange my layout. And you'll also notice that the gadget's file name is actually here at the top, and that's by default. So if you want to remove that, you're actually going to go ahead and hit here, this to edit the gadget. You're going to go to Properties. You'll select that title, and you'll just delete it. I lost my mouse, bear with me. There we go. So we'll just move that, and away it goes. So most folks want to remove the titles. It just depends. Some folks like to have no title on the actual gadget face, and they like to keep the file name. Others like to just use the titles and remove the file name. We leave that entirely up to you. So that was double clicking. Now let's say I wanted to just sneak a gadget in without adding it down to the bottom. I'd actually take it and just drag it straight from over here in the available to wherever I'd like it on the board. And it's going to go ahead and update for me. And let's say I want to make that 2 to match the other 2. I'm going to go ahead and remove that title, same way. And there you go. Like I said, we're not doing anything to make it particularly beautiful. We do have limited time, so you can definitely see on our website some more examples of how people have chosen to lay out their dashboards. Once you get the hang of it, though, it is pretty straightforward. So, all right, so that is adding and moving around gadgets on the dashboard. Now let me show you how I can change the overall look and feel of the dashboard. So we control that through styles and themes, which can be accessed right up here. So what I'm currently in, I'm in Modern, which is just sort of a flat UI, and it's got kind of a thick Arial black gauge value here. And then we also have Classic, which you might be familiar with from our older version of the software, the LED style that was pretty popular. We have the Thin, which is very similar to the Modern, another flat UI. Just makes the font slightly different. And then in combination with that, we've actually got some themes which control more of the color. So that, you see my borders disappeared, it got darker. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Classic, which will pop everything out to white. Dark, this one is my personal favorite, and that's what I'll be using for the remainder of the webinar. This one adds the borders, slight color difference, but you can pick through all of these. These are here for you to use whatever combination you like that makes you happy. So whatever you prefer. Now, if you want something custom that matches your company color scheme or something like that, definitely give us a shout at support@ConnectSMART.com. We'll see what we can do. But custom themes will be available for anyone who would like them. So other than just the overall look and feel, you'll probably have noticed that this customer responded gadget looks different than the others. And that's because I've got an alert set on it. And this particular gadget is set to, there we go. All right, so the alert targets are where I determine how I want to indicate that a gadget's been flagged for attention. So in this case, I've flagged it as a bad alert. So it's bright red and it's very obvious. Now, if I wanted to flip the border, actually, let me go ahead and switch back to dark because my default has red text, which doesn't show up that well with a red background. So I just switched it so that my gadget background is red, which obviously makes it stand out very much from all the other gadgets. But if that's a bit too much and I want something a little more subtle, I can just drop it back down to the border. And this is something that you can see, but it's not quite so disruptive on a large dashboard with a lot of gadgets. So if you were going to use a lot of alerts, you might want to play with them and see what looks best in your situation. And then what I like to do is just the border and the value. Makes it a little more obvious without losing some of that subtlety. Doesn't change the overall dashboard too much. So play with these, see what you like, and sky's the limit. But those are the alerts, and we're actually going to jump back over to the gadget editor now, and that's where you'll see how we would configure those alerts, because in this instance, this is a gadget that is looking for a value greater than 0, and then it's going to flag it as bad. So I'm going to bounce back over to the Gadget Creator, and this is another way you can get there. So from the home screen, you can also get there, but you can get to it from this top right menu button. Or you can always click up here to get back to home and also navigate to the Gadget Creator. And the Gadget Creator is going to start you out right here in the available gadgets. So anything that you've got available to you is going to show up over here. And under the provider, that's where you're going to actually determine your data source. So we have things, we have connectors for LabTech, Kaseya, TigerPaw, ConnectWise, we've got Cloud Connect, hosted ConnectWise. Lots of options, and more will be added as well. For these purposes, since we're just doing a normal on-prem ConnectWise gadget, we're going to use ConnectSMART for ConnectWise. And it gives me a group of categories here that are, like, say, finance, personal productivity, sales, service, team productivity. And I just want to give you a heads up here that those categories, those categories actually correspond to how these gadgets are arranged in our gadget gallery. So you can click here on Help, and it'll take you to the corresponding page for that gadget on our Docs page. But if you want to just see an overall view of all of our gadgets, here's where we would go to see the gallery. You can actually filter by the application that you're using. You can filter by category, but this is where you'll get kind of a great overview of what these gadgets are, the definitions behind them, how you can replicate the same instant or the same info in ConnectWise, how you can validate it in your instance of ConnectWise. So there's a lot of valuable information here that will kind of get you going in the right direction so you know which gadgets you're looking for. And then similarly, if you, not similarly, sorry, so finance, personal productivity, these are actually looking for the logged in user. That's what makes these particular gadgets unique. So if I were to go and look for my past due tickets, it's actually going to show me only the tickets that I'm assigned to, versus the service gadget, which has a very similar one called tickets past due. But this is going to look for any tickets that are past due based on whatever criteria we select. So it doesn't matter who's assigned to it. This is more from a team or board management standpoint. We don't care who's assigned. We just want to know that it's past due. So when we are in here, so if we're going to go ahead, I'm going to do a simple open tickets count for this example. And open tickets count is right here under service. And I went ahead and I clicked this guy to go ahead and add it over here. It shows up. I can technically publish more than that. Here, I'll go ahead and do these three together. All right, so I hit configure and publish down here at the bottom, and that actually bounces me back over to my organization's gadgets. I can manually navigate back to where I was, but if I want to get there again, it's mine, and it's in unpublished, and those were the service category gadgets. So I'm going to go ahead and configure an open tickets count. And for today, I'm just going to look on the help desk board, and I'm going to exclude child tickets. And child tickets. So these parameters, sorry, I did jump ahead a little bit there. These parameters are where you'd actually configure your gadget. So the settings, the filters where you'd identify the boards you care about, the service statuses, the ticket types, all of that is going to be here in our parameters. So that is, here we go. So I was going to exclude child, but if I wanted to filter out particular service types, if I wanted to exclude completed tickets, if I wanted to exclude things that were in a priority of no priority or no SLA, I can do that all here. But right here, my exclude child ticket is going to be activated by default for this gadget. And I'm going to go ahead and select the board parameter. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to get a drop down of all my boards. And I'm going to select my ConnectSMART help desk. I'm going to preview that. It's going to show me I have 43. And that. So if I wanted to do any other parameters, I would. At this particular point in time, I don't. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to leave the file name the same. The open tickets count, let's say I just don't like the word count. So this is where I'm actually modifying my title. So it's easy to do right here in the front end. And let's say I want to make sure everybody knows these are open tickets only on the help desk. Say I had 3 open tickets gadgets, each looking at its own board. This is where I would want to use that second title to go ahead and indicate that. And here is my description. It's a count of open tickets on the help desk, no child tickets. So this description is actually going to show up when you hover over it. So if you've got other users who are going to be using your gadgets, you're going to want to probably use your description here so they know what they're selecting. And on to the alerts. That is where we were seeing the customer responded gadget that was red. I'm actually going to go ahead and configure some alerts for our gadget here. So these alerts are essentially just looking for a threshold, the value on the gadget, in this case, that 43. is either above, below, in a range with something, and when it is, what do we want to happen? In this case, you know, a number of open tickets probably isn't necessarily good or bad, so I'm just going to go ahead and configure it anyway to say if it's greater than, say, 40. And here's where I'm going to pick a numeric constant. I'm going to say 40 is the value I care about, and if it's over 40, it's bad. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And go ahead and add. I don't have it on here. Oh no. All right, there it is. Nope, it's not. All right, bear with me. I apologize. I apparently do not have this on a machine with audio enabled. That is because I am doing a webinar in our training room, so I apologize. I will get you updated info on that. But here's where I would actually have my Audible alerts available to me, so I could pick sad trombone or any of those. So if I wanted it to play an Audible alert when it did meet this threshold, so if it was over 40, I would want it to play a sad trombone sound, and I would actually set it to do that on whatever refresh basis I wanted. So it doesn't have to be at the same refresh as my actual gadget. So that is, so I just went ahead and saved that. And that refresh rate, we kind of glossed over it a bit earlier. These will mostly have defaults, but you can actually bump them up or down. So if I wanted this to be an up to the minute count, I can actually set it to refresh every minute. And so now I have gone ahead, and you'll see my gadget is here. It's published. So I will go back to the dashboard, and I will add my new gadget to the dashboard. Okay. And since I left myself a nice big hole in the one that I was moving around, I will go ahead and add it there. So I'm going to grab that published gadget that I added, open tickets count, oops, and shoo. Sorry, I've got to move my, having some mouse trouble. There we go. Did I grab the wrong gadget? Bear with me. Gonna go back and see the one that I just saved. Pop this out. And we're going to go ahead and refresh. Here we go. All right, so you'll see the alert is on here. All right, so you'll see my alert is here, and sorry about that, I'm having some technical difficulties with my mouse. And I went ahead and removed those. Actually do backgrounds and get rid of the value. So it's extra obvious. Oops. Apologies. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go and check and see what questions we have. Okay, so it looks like, let's see, so Chris Cummings has asked, how do you trigger, or can you trigger an Audible alarm that does a single occurrence of the sound? And I gotta say, I have not answered that one before, so I'm just gonna go check my settings in the Gadget Creator. I know I can definitely control the refresh. So let's go take a look at that open tickets count. And I'm gonna edit. I can't get to the refresh right now for some reason. There it goes. So Chris, it does not look like we can do it just one time. You do have the 8 hours option, which would mean you'd only hear it probably once a business day. It's a great question though, so I can certainly check about adding it as an enhancement. All right, and so actually it looks like IFTY wanted to know about moving the legends on charts, or moving the point labels on charts from the top to the bottom or into the middle. And that is something that we can do. That's going to actually come from our developer studio since they are hard-coded on our standard gadgets. But we will have another webinar on using the developer studio so that you can make those very granular changes to the appearance of your gadgets. Does anybody else have any questions right now that we can answer for you, or we can demo anything for you? So Rob asks, what if styles and alert targets aren't visible in the pull down? That's a very good question. That's actually in a later version, so you may just have a slightly older version than the one we're using for the demo. So Rob, if you visit docs.connectsmart.com, like I pulled up a little bit ago, you can actually go ahead and from the home page, just go ahead and download that newest version, and you will have them. So let's see. So Randy Biggs is wondering if we can create a gadget for a group. So say a finance dashboard that only the folks on the finance team can see. Yes, you can. It's a little more involved than I can cover here. It does involve some permissions and some hiding some gadgets from folks, but it's definitely doable. So I can follow up with you after, and we'll go ahead and make sure that gets documented so everybody can follow up and see how that's done. All right, so Rob is asking if you can change the type of chart for a gadget, and this we definitely can do. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out of here. Of course, now I've got my go to webinar stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a chart. For example, we'll do open tickets status. If I can see it, there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that to edit it. And where you're going to change the chart type is under Properties. So you'll scroll down here under Gallery. Right now it's a bar. I can go ahead and change it to, say, a donut, a pie chart. If I just don't like the vertical bar, I can make it horizontal. So that's all right here in the web gadget editor. So you can make any of those changes. Obviously, some of the data types aren't going to work with other chart types, but this is where you just click of a button and flip through whatever you want to see. So Chris Cummings also asks, what is ConnectIO? And Chris, that's a great question. So ConnectIO is the data warehousing piece of ConnectSMART. you would be able to pull in all of your ConnectWise data, your lab tech or Kaseya data, financials, and then you can actually report on them with our reporting tools. You can create dashboards based off of those metrics. So even if we don't have, say, a native integration to the dashboarding to, say, QuickBooks, you can make a dashboard of your finances from QuickBooks in a ConnectSMART dashboard just because you're pointing it at Connect.io. So the same way that we connect to ConnectSMART, you would connect to Connect.io just like any other data source, and we'd write gadgets just to point to that. Same thing, open tickets count, we'd see open invoices, whatever we want to see. And also, this is a very good point that my colleague has brought up here. Most of our future development is focused on Connect.io, so new gadgets. There will be a lot of new gadgets that have not been available under the older ones because of differences in platforms. So now that we're consolidating things on the Connect.io platform, you're going to see a lot more interesting gadgets come out when folks request them. So there will be a lot more enhancements being pushed out to you guys if you're using Connect.io. So it looks like Kat has actually gone ahead and added some links for you. So these are some some references you can use if you are having if you've got any questions about Connect.io or how it works or how it gets set up. And obviously, if you would like more information on how to get Connect.io, just shoot us an email and we will happily explain and reach out to you. So do we have any more questions at this point? Well, if I miss anybody or you think of it just as soon as we end the webinar, feel free to shoot us an email. We will happily respond. But at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and conclude the webinar. I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time. If you feel like you missed anything, we are doing the same webinar next Thursday. So we'll be covering the same topics. So if you think this would be useful for one of your colleagues, feel free to recommend that they join. And we will see you guys on Thursday. But also keep checking back to see what other webinars we've got scheduled. And thank you guys so much. Have a great one.